I'm Joe Pardavila, and you are listening to the Forbes Books Podcast. And this week I'm chatting with a model turned entrepreneur that has been disrupting the $150 billion global anti-aging market since launching her brand around 10 years ago and introducing the world to her patented GloPRO microneedling skin regeneration technology. Coincidentally, I too was a model. I once walked the runway of the North Arlington High School fashion show in suburban New Jersey. So we've got that in common. Her name is Jamie O'Banion, and she's the founder and CEO of BeautyBio. Jamie, how are you?
Doing just great. Happy Tuesday to you. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for joining me after the long holiday weekend. And let's start by talking about the birth of this company, BeautyBio, because from what I understand, the idea of you being in the cosmetic industry is almost genetic. It's in your DNA, right? Because wasn't your father involved in somewhat in this industry as well?
Yep, 100%. And I think oftentimes in our careers, there are breadcrumbs that lead you to where you are. And not that everyone has a specific, calling, if you will, in life, but I feel very much that what I'm doing today was by design. And I often think, what are the chances that I happen to be born into a family with a physician father who is also an incredible biochemist and owner in one of the top labs in the US, and having had access to an incredible amount of information, right? That to me was literally dinner table conversation, Joe. And in hindsight, that was such an incredible preparation here in the US. And then he also had ownership in a lab in Europe and then one in Asia. And I would travel with him from a young age. And the amount of information that I absorbed was really phenomenal in hindsight. And there are so many threads that have helped me plan for as we've expanded globally.
And it almost seems like, just judging by the words you're using, it was mostly through osmosis. It almost sounds like a teenage Jamie was not thinking about being a cosmetic CEO. Am I correct with that assumption?
Correct. In fact, it's funny because I think, by the time I had my driver's license, I could tell you that someone in Asia was caring far more about hyperpigmentation than someone in Italy who cared about texture, and someone in the US who was really mostly concerned with fine lines. And while there are certainly some universal truths, those little tidbits that exactly through osmosis just absorbed as part of life have been so unbelievably helpful. I honestly don't know how you would acquire that level of information, in touchness, if you will, with what your audiences are here and abroad. Without those experiences growing up, no doubt.
And did your family, once you became this entrepreneur in this industry, were they like, we told you should have been paying attention more during dinner time instead of being on your phone? I mean, did you get some of that from your family?
Gosh, not overtly, but okay. Certainly, I think it's one of those things that, and interestingly enough, I have 5 siblings and I'm the only one who's gone to this vein of the business. And frankly, I went to an all-girl, very STEM-focused school. I've always loved science and chemistry. And for me, it's something that was very intrinsic that I genuinely enjoyed. I love solving problems. In fact, in our office, we don't call them problems, we call them puzzles, right? Because really, it's just simply about rearranging the pieces to get a different cause-effect reaction. And it's really fun, when you think about it that way. If you're the PDP page that you're on, your website, if it's not converting or you're not having the heat map traffic that you want, okay, well, it's a puzzle. Let's move this to the top and bump this down. And what if our wireframe looks like this? And then you start to get feedback and you're able to pivot and move forward.
That's cool. And so I've spoken to a few folks in the skincare industry who became entrepreneurs, built their own company. And the one thing that seems to be like a common thread when these folks start their company is the old adage my football coach used to tell me, keep it simple, stupid. Start with, the KISS concept. Start with one basic either item or SKU and then build on it. Is that sort of what your modus operandi was when you started BeautyBio as well?
Absolutely. I think we need coffee cups in our office that are stamped with a confused customer never buys. I say that ad nauseum. It's true. And if everything's important, nothing's important, right? So while you might have the greatest formula on the planet Earth, if no one knows about it, so what? Who cares, right? So it's incredibly important to be focused and narrow and go deep, especially in the beginning, to build what I would call your Trojan horse, if you will. If you're so confident in that item and you become the best of the best categorically for that, people will trust your line, and then they'll venture into other pieces of the business of the line as you build what I call these, credibility bridges. So we're focused on skincare, right? It is vitamin A, vitamin C, retinol. We combine tools and topicals together. But say at our lab, if we develop the most fantastic new nail polish, right, that you didn't even need a separate primer, you didn't need heat, and it gave you this gel-like texture, it doesn't behoove me to launch that. It doesn't make sense. There's not a credibility bridge. I don't have ownership in that space in nails, right? But I could, call up one of my founder friends, Deb Lippman or someone, hey, we have this great formula. It might be interesting for you. So while you might have something phenomenal, important to clearly communicate to the customer, to launch with that hero SKU, which for us into retail was GloPRO. We just finished the patent on it, the patent issued. And that I knew was so disruptive, so different. I had an IP moat around it that we could launch there and then sample our skincare, because I grew up in skincare, not tools, right? But we developed GloPRO to help all of our ingredients absorb 200 times more effectively. The new peptides we were making, the new retinoids that we were making. So by combining those together, we've fortunately been the first brand in the industry to be successful in both tools and topicals. It's been really special.
And I always call it the power of one. Every kind of entertainer needs that one thing, whether it's that hit song or that hit movie to break through. And obviously GloPRO was for you, but why was it? Why do you think that was the one that broke through?
Truly, it's so disruptive. It's so different, and it works for every single person. So the kind of backstory to GloPRO, in the lab, we're working constantly on in vitro and in vivo data. So in vivo is like on human skin, in vitro is in a petri dish, essentially. And we found that we had these incredible ingredients. And in a petri dish, we were getting amazing fibroblastic activity, which makes more collagen, helps your skin look young and firm and bouncy. We lose that collagen production as we age. So, we had this idea, and I really have to give credit to my dad. It was his brainchild, where he said, think about your yard or your garden, right? You don't put your tulip bulbs on the surface of the soil and walk away, right? You aerate a lawn, right? Literally that's such a great analogy, because it's kind of a vertical exfoliation, if you will. And in skincare, you can have these amazing ingredients, but if they cannot penetrate, if they cannot hot shot down to the dermal epidermal junction where these C4, C7, not to get too technical, collagen fibers live, it's
too late,
just
Jamie.
sitting.
You got too technical, but
it's
that's
too late. We did. We're there. We went deep. That's how I roll. No pun intended with the GloPRO rolling. But no, it's awesome. So it helps everything absorb more effectively. So for me, that was such a breakthrough, because I at the time couldn't afford, the 200-person team across the country that we have today, right? I had to start narrow, and I had to start with something that I knew was disruptive. No one else had. It was patented. It was protected, and something that other people would be excited to sell. So my friend at, brand XYZ, she is excited to get her customer using GloPRO, because when she rolls that on her face before she applies her favorite skincare, what be, it's going to work so much harder for her. So it was really an amazing strategy, because without any field team in the beginning, we had tremendous velocity, because every product worked better when you used our tool first. And then, of course, we were entering into topicals immediately thereon, since that is our wheelhouse. I mean, it's something that I think are the best of the best in. And once she tried our skincare, then she was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And now, the majority of our business is skincare, while we're still top tool brand, which is exciting.
Wow. Well, I know just enough about skincare to be dangerous, because interviewing a bunch of skincare entrepreneurs, and my wife, who luckily is not here while I'm recording this, because I know she'll be like, what's that website? How do I get that? Because I feel like every day I go to the mailbox, there's some sort of different product that comes in. So I know it's hyper competitive. So my question to you about that is not to get my wife to stop buying these things, but how competitive is it? How hard was it for you to break through with the product? I mean, you obviously built a great product with GloPRO, but how was it then to break through to the masses?
It is literally David and Goliath.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry if you look at the TAM opportunity, especially because we're playing in both tools and topicals. And you are competing against on the very same shelf, oftentimes, same gondola, same end cap, whatever it might be, with multi-billion-dollar brands, forget their parent company, right?
Right.
So it is absolutely critical that you have a very clear value proposition, that you have something that is so distinct and so unique. And then on top of that, you're able to communicate that to the customer. And there's really two different layers of that. And when I help mentor entrepreneurs that are just starting, first layer is helping your buying team. So whether that's, we saw at Nordstrom and Sephora and Ulta and Harrods in London and Selfridges and Mecca in Australia. First, you're having to present this to very savvy buyers who have seen it all, right? Help them understand and get excited. And then consumer facing, you have to help them in a blink. I mean, walk in, it is a wall of skincare, all saying the same thing. Why? Because per FDA guidelines, we have to all keep our claims cosmetic in nature. So everyone's talking about hydration. Everyone's talking about, a more even skin tone. So why you? Why BeautyBio? And I think with GloPRO specifically, there was nothing else that delivered what we were able to deliver. And I knew that we could get a foothold in a space that tools has had rapid growth and categorically was not as large at the time as just skincare in general, like topical goop, if you will. And it allowed us to gain tremendous speed into creating that foothold out of the gate, because we had, as I mentioned, this cross-selling across department. It was something that was so unique. We won, Allure Best of Beauty Award out of the gate, Women's Wear Daily Award, Town and Country, Cosmo in 3 countries. And I think that visibility, because it was so disruptive, is key. And then I think the last piece that gives you the longevity, it's easy. We talk a lot about sell-in, right? Like the customer is willing to trust you. I want to make sure every one of our customers is so happy. That is the most important thing to me. I want them to have a great experience, see their skin health improve, and they will come back if the most important part of that triage, so first into the buying team, A, B into the consumer, and C, that moment in his or her, bathroom setting where they're using the product, if they do not see results, they will not come back. And you might have great sell-in, and you see this a lot of times with different brands. There's a lot of buzz, and then it happens, and then, why did it die? What happened? If your products do not work, it doesn't matter how pretty they are or how trending they are, people will not come back. And that's been the true secret to our success, because every one of our formulas is third-party clinically tested. And that sounds like that shouldn't be a big statement. That is a massive statement, because we live in an industry where people constantly make single ingredient claims. They're not actually testing the finished formula, which is shocking. That'd be like me as a baker baking this beautiful wedding cake and never tasting it. But literally that's what happens. And there are ingredients that negate the properties and efficacy of others. So it can be a total cluster, and you end up with a formula that doesn't really do anything, or in some cases makes your skin worse. So we always third-party clinically test not only single ingredients, but the finished formula. So I know if there's a formula that makes it on the spot for the BeautyBio team, it works. It works. And that is the secret to longevity, success in growing organically, because you have we call them our skintellects, our glow getters, our glow immunity, who come back again and again. And that's probably the most satisfying piece.
And I'm curious about that. Following up on that is because I know my aforementioned wife will always try one product once, and then if she doesn't see, and of course you're not always expected to see instant results, but if she doesn't see instant results on something, she's like, let me just go on to the next one, because of the issues. We talked about the competitive nature of the industry. So how important to you is that sort of like love at first sight, good first impression of the product? Because I feel like my wife is not an outlier there. I think most customers are like that. 100%. If they don't see any sort of change, whether it's slight or even or to a better extent major, but if there's a slight improvement, they'll go ahead and order another bottle. How does that work with you and your team and the stuff you're making?
Yeah, so it is mission critical, especially the American consumer. That is really important. Fortunately for us, because GloPRO essentially taps into the wound healing response, right? Like, why does a man look younger along his jawline than a woman? He shaves. So he's actually creating a micro injury in the skin. So with women, we do love that, that instant result. When you're using GloPRO, it's almost like creating these tiny little micro injuries that are imperceptible. They don't hurt because your skin acts like a cushion. You can never like push it too deep or, be uncomfortable. And that forces your body's wound healing response. Like think when you get a paper cut, right? You look down, you're like, is it going to bleed? Is it not going to bleed? Either way, it heals, right? So we discovered this is the critical depth, 0.3 millimeters, that no pain, no discomfort, no bleeding. However, it triggers that wound healing response. And that was a huge, huge breakthrough. And I won't get technical, but we discovered there's something that is called crosstalk that happens between the upper and lower layers of the skin. And as long as you get it to 0.3 millimeters, crosstalk happens that the lower layers think it's been injured. It's really fascinating. The body is amazing. The human body is amazing. So really what the umbrella to that comment, Joe, is really at the end of the day, I'm a huge believer in this, what I call kind of expectation happiness scale. And it's really perpetuates, and it's true too, and perpetuates across our entire, every lane in our life, right? For example, happiness is 100% tied to expectation. So if I expect that my product, the first time I use it, is going to take, someone who's maybe 50 and make them look 25, then I've set a really high bar and I better be able to deliver on that, right? However, if I say, okay, this product, you're going to see improvement over time. And over the course of 30 days with this material cohort of individuals, here's what we saw, this improvement in texture, tone, wrinkles, and so forth. Then I know, okay, like I might not wake up tomorrow and see this wrinkle gone, but if I stick with this for 3 times a week, 60 seconds, and we clearly delineate what that, protocol would look like, I can expect to see this on average. And that has been tremendous. So we really try to clearly communicate. And that's why the clinical studies are so important. How do you pressure test that otherwise, right? So when we have a meaningful audience, that we have a really good handle on when people should expect to see results, people will actually wait longer and throughout the tenure if you share that with them, if you create that expectation. And that's something, that kind of expectation happiness barometer that I've tried to deploy in my own life. I mean, on a personal front, you mentioned your wife. If your expectation was she would order a skincare product once a year and something that's coming every week, there's going to be a disconnect there, right? So no one's a mind reader.
I wish it was once a year, Jamie. I wish it was once a year. It's not.
Hey, it might be with GloPRO. That might be like a real one and done.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad. Right? I'm glad. Well, which one can I suggest for her, by the way? Because
oh my gosh,
what is a good? Is the GloPRO the intro? Like, I'll just give you an example. My wife is always walking around with those skin mask things, the ones that are under your eye, whether it's gold or silver or whatever color. They're basically a permanent. They might as well be sunglasses in the summertime. Or they're always on her face during the day. First of all, I don't know if those even work. You probably know better than I do, and I think you have some sort of product that's similar to that. But her puffy eyes that she's always walking around with frozen spoons on her face and has the thing, what's a good intro product for her to go and get and then get again and again?
Oh my gosh. So a couple of things on that. And I know we're all crazy, crazy busy, and we all want what we call the multitasking heroes, right? So yes, we have eye gels that are amazing. They're made of collagen, colloidal silver, aloe vera, sustainably harvested crushed pearl. Our entire line, we're cruelty-free, clean at Sephora. We love vegan-based formulas. So yes, the eye gels are amazing. The collagen really drinks into the skin. The under eye area doesn't have the same oil sebaceous glands as the rest of the face, which is why you don't see someone with like crazy acne like directly underneath their eye, like Melia maybe, but not. So yes, it does work because it restores that instant hydration. The lines appear smoother. I literally keep mine next to my eggs in the refrigerator, and they are also going on like sunglasses as I'm making, breakfast in the morning. But I have 3 kids. We're knock on wood, one of the fastest growing skincare brands. So it's a lot to juggle. My husband is also an entrepreneur. We didn't plan it that way. And that's just, so we're both like doing all the things. And I will say, from a time efficiency perspective, anything that you can do, I mean, our most precious asset gift is time. To give time back to your consumers, I am all about. So we just launched a product called the Eyelighter, which has been on fire. It sold out in Sephora in 3 days. I mean, we blew through our first 25,000 units in the first 2 weeks of launch, which I was hoping would last us longer. We've been airing in product on the heels of that. Supply chain has been crazy because some of our ingredients come from Italy, and Anyhow, long and the short is it's been a huge SKU for us because it has a depuffing metal tip on it. So forget the spoons, right? That instantly depuffs. And then when you pump it, out comes this amazing formula that is an instant smoother made with hyaluronic acid, jojoba, and beautiful ingredients that help to smooth instant and long-term, because to your point, we knew that was important. You needed to instantly see something. And then lastly, it's the most amazing primer. So your under eye concealer doesn't crease, your eyeshadow doesn't crease, and we show these demonstrations in store. And that, I literally cannot keep it in stock. I was doing an event at Sephora in Newport Beach a few weeks ago, and we looked online. There was not an eyeliner within 300 miles in any of our retailers where I was speaking. So it's so rewarding to have a product that the consumer loves. It's so us because it really does combine kind of that tool and topical together.
It sounds like you got like the PS5 of the skincare industry there. You can't keep them in stores. Good for you. All right, so the eyeliner concentrate and then the bright eyes. Those are the two.
Those are the two for eyes that I would must have. And then GloPRO. So we launched a new GloPRO set maybe about a year ago that has little mini sizes of our favorite heroes. So your cleanser, your moisturizer to put on after GloPRO. The moisturizer is called Zen Bubble, and that's another one. Get your skin the Zen zone, the Zen Bubble. That has been amazing because it controls oil while also giving you 65% more hydration, and that's never been done. So to your point with your wife and everyone out there, typically people have been doing like zoned masking, zone moisturizers, which is great. No one has time to put on one moisturizer on your forehead and then another one on your cheeks. Like, that's too much. So Zen Bubble has been a huge success for us. Allure touted it as one of the top launches when we launched it. It's just been absolutely huge because it is beautiful, lightweight, it's oil-free, it is fragrance-free, so every skin type can love and enjoy it. And it's an amazing primer for your foundation, for the rest of your face. Just to differentiate, right? The under eye concealer, that stays in that zone, and the foundation's all over. I know you get it. And that has been huge because it's really given an incredible add back in time. And then we launched into scalp. So now, again, looking at it from a business lens, we're winning in tools, we're winning in topicals, and we launched into scalp, which has had a massive, massive surge in growth over the last several years. And our credibility bridge, if you will, there is we had all of these people who are using GloPRO and telling us their eyebrows were growing back. We had Huda of Huda Beauty did this amazing video, showing how rolling GloPRO on her scalp was helping a couple spots on her scalp grow back with hair. And so we started a study with alopecia patients and said, what is the correlation between microneedling and hair growth? Well, come to find out that, as we all know, our skin doesn't stop at our scalp. It wraps around. That's also skin. And as we deplete in collagen as we age. And we found that GloPRO was growing back hair because it optimizes whatever that cell is supposed to do. Almost like muscle memory, right? So you're not going to grow a hair out of the middle of your cheek. But if that was a cell programmed to grow hair, we optimize it because it forces new bouncy skin cells, new cells that don't have the same problems, if you will, as others. So they're not going to come back with enlarged pores or, a sluggish hair cycle. It's really been fantastic. So we launched into scalp in October of, I think it was 2020, I want to say. And
who knows? We're all living in the simulation now.
I know,
Jamie.
it's so true.
Calendars,
so
dates,
true.
it means absolutely nothing. That's amazing. And just looking at your website, you're obviously D2C, direct to consumer, and you're obviously in retail, like you mentioned, being on store shelves at Sephora. Mm-hmm. When you first started the company, what was the original sort of target? Because I know a lot of skincare companies have really just locked into the direct to consumer because of these challenges that we talked about. The fact that you're fighting against these $billion behemoths. So you're doing both. When you first started, was that always the plan to do retail and direct to consumer? Because I know didn't you start technically in HSN was sort of like your big firing off point?
Exactly. Okay. And that's what I was going to add as our third channel is television, which still to this day is a really material channel for us. And television was so great because with a very lean team, and I'm talking like me and my assistant, and then we added a third team member that was kind of served as controller, if you will. Mm-hmm. I was able to run a multi-million-dollar business with literally a headcount of 3.
Wow.
And that's because the volume of buy for a QVC or an HSN is so tremendous that, they might buy in one airing what another retail partner would buy for a season, right? So you're essentially going through the same motions. I'm placing purchase orders, doing everything that I would need to do. But when you start with a singular customer that's that large, you're just adding more zeros to the POs. I don't need a field team to support it. I don't need, a massive back-end operational team to support it. So it allowed me to build up enough that I could then launch into retail, which requires an enormous capital investment to be successful and, free up marketing dollars so then we could be more competitive. And we've had tremendous support from our retail partners. I mean, we could not do it without them. We just launched in Ulta. It'll be 2 years this fall. And, all of our retail partners have been amazing. And they've been so generous with, catalog placement or email placement, Sephora, Nordstrom, Ulta, all of them. And that has been huge, especially as a indie brand when you're launching and you're small and lean. And it's critical to have that support because at the end of the day, they have each built their own audiences that then we're sharing the brand with, and they have their own trust and credibility. And because it's so easy today to pop up a shingle on a website and start selling product, there still is a level of credibility, I think, that's extended when they know that their tried and trusted favorite beauty retailer has given the green stamp of approval on a brand. I do think that that's still important and a big believer in kind of the flywheel approach of all tides rise. So HSN QVC gave us an amazing megaphone to be able to speak to, literally cameras on, like if you've ever seen the movie Joy, it's legit like that. I stood on set my first time and I'm like, OMG, I have no idea what I'm doing. And there's literally a counter that shows how many units are sold. The lights come on and I'm looking at that counter and I'm looking at the camera and I'm going, please, my mom, my best friend, someone, please let it move to 1 unit sold. And it was really slow in the beginning and I saw 1 unit, 10 units, 100. And then all of a sudden, 12 minutes in, we had sold out of our first 2,500 units at launch early. And it was just tremendous. And
how hard was it for you to stay present for those first 12 minutes? Because you're thinking about your family, or you're looking at a clock. They probably slot you for a limited time. So it's not like you're going to be there all day. No. Were you just trying to wake yourself up Jamie, snap out of it, because I'm sure someone's there asking you questions about the product. How difficult was that 12-minute time span there?
Incredibly. But here's what I did. And this is, H has kind of a Shark Tank type, concept. And I've, been on to help mentor people that are just starting out. And here's the greatest piece of advice that I can offer. Before I step on set to this day, and obviously we've been doing a remote broadcast, but I think it's, they'll start having guests back in studio, I think this year. They just sent an announcement out about that. And every time before I walk on set, I tell myself, you are not selling, you are helping. You're a vehicle. So I'm not there to sell a product. I'm there to present what I know. Hey, 10 out of 10 dermatologists would tell you should be using retinol every night. Here are the things to look for. Here's what to avoid. And here's what we put together that helps accomplish all of those goals. And everyone's welcome to choose whatever they want to choose for their own skin health. And that approach of education first has been really key to our success. I never watch anyone else, unless I'm in the green room, and because there's TVs everywhere, but I don't ever actively watch someone else on air. I'm just a big believer that people start to sound like the other people. I know what I know and I'm going to share, and I am who I am. And that's that. And, take it or leave it. And that's been, I think that authenticity piece has been helpful. And then the last piece, when lights are on, you have the entire camera crew looking at you, you're about to go live in front of, 45 to 90 million people, depending upon which network you're on. I always looked at the main camera, my ISO camera, and would just tell myself, I would pretend it was my best friend. And I would picture her there, and then I would just start talking to her like it was girls' night in, and I wanted to share about this new formula we were working on or some new nugget that I had learned, and that made it so much more real and not staged. There's not a script it's all live. There's no prompter. And I think just that sharing girlfriend to girlfriend, camera to screen to screen on social, Same thing in store, that one-on-one. You build a business one-to-one. Yes, it's aggregate, and you grow, and you have thousands of people, millions of people, whatever, across the world. But it really is one-to-one. It's that singular relationship, on screen into someone's intimate living room, right? Or someone comes in store and they're talking to someone on our field team, or if I'm doing an in-store visit. It's that one-to-one interaction that is so meaningful and so important, and truly the lifeblood of our brand. And I deeply respect that trust that's there with the consumer, and it's critical to ensure that he or she is always happy, satisfied, and we're listening, and we're not saying so detached from our community. A lot of our R&D ideas actually come from our community DMs on social. We save them, we log them. What do you want? What is it that you're wanting to see from the brand as well? Is there a problem that you have that no one has solved yet? Like, let's do that. Let's solve that puzzle.
And off topic, those HSN and QVC hosts are more talented than people give them credit for. I mean, they get parodied all the time, but for someone to go on camera and talk about a vacuum for like an hour is not easy. So I'm sure the folks you've ever worked with, you probably walk away and be like, man, that person's really, really good at that.
Absolutely. I have so much respect and genuine friendships with many of the hosts, because they have an incredible skill set to be able to kind of binge and purge information. Think about it. They might have, especially on Q, your airtime is incredibly condensed. They might have, if an item has 6 minutes over the course of an hour, 10 different items, and they have to quickly learn about it, talk about it, ask questions that, and prompt, right, accordingly, across each of those items over and over again all day long. I've been on air for 2 and 3 hour stretches. Joe, that is like 2 full-length feature films. Oh, yeah. I don't even want to hear myself. It's a lot to unpack and still feel energized and again, authentic, because people are constantly tuning in and tuning out every few minutes, and to keep it fresh. But no, I have deep respect as professionals for what the hosts do. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the great thing about TV time, it has one of two things, depending on where your mind space is. Those 2 hours feel like 2 minutes, or they feel like 20 hours. Yeah. And I'm sure you've been in both camps there.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is the ability to keep it light and keep it fun, especially when you're talking about something that is scientific. Be able to break it down, make it analogous to something that's relatable. And I think that's one thing that we've been able to do successfully as a brand, and I had to learn to do. Imagine as a little girl being around all of these brilliant, white-haired chemists, because everyone, their ages and eons of wisdom, and they're talking about ionic activity and pH levels and all of this, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to be the Rosetta Stone here, so let's break this down so it makes sense for like me and my girlfriends. And then I ended up being kind of recruited into the modeling industry when I was about 17, and saved what I was making from that, and that helped to provide some seed capital when the brand was started. And I'm so grateful for that experience, because I went from my love of science and chemistry, kind of like behind the microscope, if you will, to in front of the camera and working with some of the top makeup artists. And I've always been very inquisitive and, saying, what do you see? Why are you using that? What made you put, this cream that's actually designed for your body part here? Like, why are you using it under someone's eyes? Like what, just understand the logic, because at the end of the day, that is our consumer. And even when we've shot campaigns and so forth, I'm so thankful for both of those camps of experience. And that's kind of the beauty bioscience, right? Like both of those worlds emerging is why we named the brand as such.
And I'm curious, one final note on this. So you self-financed the company. You've obviously been scaling up at a rapid rate, starting with the GloPRO and then working your way all the way up to what all the things you're offering now, like hair and all the skin products. When do you top out on that? When does it become a point for you, Jamie, to be like, we've got to be acquired for us to scale up any bigger? Is that on the top of your brain now, or is that way in the back of the recesses of your mind, or that's going to be the only way you're going to be able to scale up is via acquisition?
It's an interesting question, and M&A has been so active in beauty, and it's only continued to build. So for me, I am a huge believer, and if you focus on the present, then the future, you're preparing for what the future might be. And I'm a huge believer in optionality. I will always do what's right for the business. And if at some point that seemed like the appropriate next step, certainly would consider that. However, we might get to a stage where we're acquiring, right? You don't know. But I think by maintaining and building a healthy business in a fiscally responsible format, knowing that there are times where you're going to have to lean in and, sacrifice bottom line because you have a full door tower program in 1,300 doors. And we've got to lean into that because we know that the lifetime value and the tail on that is enormous, 6, 12 months down the road. So I don't have an answer to that other than to say we're going to continue growing a brand to build consumer trust. And I will, as chairman of the board, as CEO and founder, it's my responsibility to do what's right for the business. So building a brand that continues forward in success will allow us to have several different lanes to choose from in the future for whatever makes the most sense for the brand.
Cool. And speaking of the future, I have a feeling I'm going to have some of those pink and white boxes showing up in my mail any day now. But her name is Jamie O'Banion. She's the founder and CEO of BeautyBio. Jamie, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. And good luck for the rest of 2022.
Appreciate it so much. Thanks. You too. Take care now.
And that wraps up this episode of the Forbes Books podcast. If you enjoy the program, please make sure you take a quick second to subscribe so you automatically get new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I would love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.